Oh, that's new. At least I've not noticed it before. It asked me for consent. I either give consent to be recorded or I could leave.
Wait, what did you say?
It was interesting when he started the recording, it said, at least on my laptop, it said, like recording, beginning, and then it popped up a little dialog box that said, do you consent to being recorded or do you want to leave? So I consented.
Yeah, nobody asked me that.
Huh.
I just got an announcement, like a verbal announcement saying you are now being recorded. I wasn't given the option.
Huh. Yeah, I got that. That little thing popped up.
So I know that Meg's going to hop on tonight. I know that Kevin McCarthy's going to hop on tonight.
Oh, okay.
I know that Rachel is, and that might be the crew tonight. So we'll see.
That sounds like a good crew. All right, let's see.
Let's start promptly too.
Well, it's just about 6:31 according to the U.S. atomic clock right now.
So we'll give Councilwoman Kristen O'Keefe a couple minutes, and then Mark will start with the call to order and the agenda or the minutes approval and all that good stuff.
Should I go knock on her door?
Here, I'm going to promote Kate to a panelist. Good to see Kate.
I'll go out to the porch.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, hi everybody. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right.
Good. All right. Here's the agenda.
Oh, nice.
While we're waiting, maybe make sure you check out the meetings from last meeting, or the minutes rather from last meeting.
Yes. Let's start, DJ.
You're the boss.
All right, let's call this meeting to order.
All right.
All right, so if everybody's good, hopefully you had an opportunity to can take a quick look at the minutes, and we'll get a motion to approve those.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, minutes are approved. Let's move on.
All right, sounds good. So I know we'll start with the public comments. I know we have some folks from the public here tonight. And what we'll actually do is, since I don't want them to have to wait, we'll first tackle the items that I know people are here for. So we'll go maybe a little out of order on the agenda, but I think the folks that are in the attendance will appreciate that. So Mark, if you don't mind, we'll hop down to, I have it listed as community center fields and ball fields.
Okay.
Actually, Fairhaven Fields, I believe. There's a group, I believe majority of baseball folks here in town who would like to inquire about turf ball fields, turfing some of the public space that we have existing, I believe. And I know that Kristen Hoey has contacted me about it, so I did add this group to the agenda. And Kristen, when you're ready, I will allow you to talk and just go through what you're looking for or what the group is here to talk about. As a reminder, our meetings are typically an hour in length, so we typically keep this portion around 10-15 minutes or so, and then we move along. So Kristen, I will allow you to talk, introduce yourself. Looks like you're muted. Now you're good to go.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, good. Hi, Kristen.
Hi. Hello, I'm Kristen Hoey. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak, myself to speak. I actually do have a couple slides because I wanted to make use of everyone's time. How do I share if I don't have access to this? I'm just not sure. How do I share a screen?
Can you set her to present?
Yeah, so what I can do, we haven't done it before, I can temporarily promote you to panelist, and then I believe you should be allowed to share your screen if I give you that permission. So let's see, first time for us here.
Yeah, hopefully once he promotes, you'll see at the bottom, it'll say share screen.
Share screen. Okay, perfect. All right, let me, just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Wanted to,
So it should be a green widget in the middle of your screen that says share screen with a little up arrow.
yep, it says select window to, sorry,
Yeah.
It's
So if you have that
nothing cool.
presentation open, select that window.
okay,
All
here we
right.
go.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Can you everybody see this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Again, thank you so much for allowing us to speak. Again, my name is Kristen Hoey. My family and I live in Fairhaven. I've been involved with baseball for the past 2 years. This year, I took on the role of being the head coach for one of the travel teams. Have thoroughly enjoyed it. Really love the enthusiasm, not only of the sport, but the parents and the community. And think we have a tremendous opportunity here to talk about the current state of the fields and opportunities for the future. So what I did is I put together essentially some notes around really what we're asking and what our objective here is tonight. And so we have a group of us, whether it be baseball coaches, softball coaches, soccer, flag football, lacrosse. I've spoken with numerous people in the community. Everyone is really excited about the space that we have in Fairhaven Field, really excited about the community involvement and certain passion that we have for recreation and travel sports alike. Starting as early as age 3, going up all the way through high school. And, really what we're seeing as we experience usage of these fields, our thought is, there's a lot of talk around things that need to be addressed at the field. And I know this isn't news to anyone, right? So if we're talking about things that need to be addressed around drainage, things that need to be addressed around flooding, the amount of time that we're spending as coaches and parents and even some of the players getting these fields ready, as we start to really think about what we need in the future, there's an opportunity for us as a community to invest in new technology, and that new technology would be in lieu of the current sod that we have, which would be replacing the sod with turf, synthetic turf that can be used for all of the sports listed below. So what we did in this, and I'll go into that in more detail in the next couple of slides, but this slide just gives you an overview of all of the sports that we're talking about that currently use Fairhaven Fields access, whether it's Fairhaven 2, 3, 4, Community North, Community South. These are the various sports, the current fields that they actually use, the ages that we're talking about, the towns that participate in each one of these sports, and the approximate number of representatives and players in each one of these organizations. And again, the source from this really came from my own online research, as well as talking with coaches and players within the organization. So this just gives you an overview of the number of people that would be potentially impacted. The next slide really goes into sort of what we're talking about. So, where are we now, and what do we think could be a viable solution for these fields? So, we have been experiencing, and I put a little picture here down at the bottom, some drainage and flooding. And when we say drainage and flooding issues, we're really talking about, if it rains on a Wednesday, games are often canceled, certainly on Friday and sometimes on Saturday as well. So leading us to have to play away games or find alternative space. There's a lot of parents and players allocating time to rake, line, repair the fields prior to play. That's just time away from sports instruction. So for myself as a coach, instead of being in the batting cage or doing warm-ups with the team, I'm spending a tremendous amount of time on the field, for field maintenance. The current field limitations require us to maneuver a lot of the fields to make them usable and sort of legal and meeting standards of play. So again, moving bases, gold nets, pitching mounds to make them usable for that particular age group. We have a lot of usage in the town, which is great. People are moving into the community, right? They're moving out of cities, they're moving out of urban areas. They're all moving to Fairhaven, or at least it seems like it. And because of that, there's a significant uptick in usage. That in itself lends to significant more like garbage, debris, and playable area. People are just congregating more, right? And so there's a lot of increased demand. I myself, just to give you an example, show up at least an hour and a half before each game. I put on my rubber gloves, I put on my mask, I pick up the waste, because I don't want a visiting town coming to Fairhaven and sitting in a dugout with empty Gatorade bottles and wrappers and et cetera, et cetera. So I take that on. I just don't think that that's a good use of my time, but I do it. We don't have, accessible bathrooms right now. There are porta potties. We're asking people if we could use their own private homes. We're often going to restaurants. And because of there's so much concern over the drainage and the sort of state of these fields that we're addressing tonight, the other fields are experiencing overcapacity, right? So we're over leveraging and overusing community center. We're overusing the Fairhaven upper fields, which are closer to Ridge Road, excuse me. So, the idea here is really to create a sort of multi-sport complex, right? So I spent obviously a lot of time with the baseball and softball community, but really what we're talking about is thinking about this for the future, right? So let's think about this in a way where we can both upgrade the fields. If we're going to have to fix the drainage, if we're going to have to fix the flooding, if we're going to have to fix the field limitations, let's do it in an efficient way where we're utilizing technology so we can really see the field being used for the next 15 to 20 years and beyond. And not only for baseball and softball, let's talk about it for lacrosse. Let's draw lines for field hockey, for soccer, for flag football, for tackle football, for the Fairhaven Running Club, which just started up this year. There's so many different activities that could use it. We were talking about low maintenance, highly durable, pesticide-free synthetic that can be used for all of the recreation sports and travel sports that we talked about in the last slide, right? If we're talking about Fairhaven 2, and again, I'll get into this in the next slide, exactly the space that we're talking about. If we're talking about that space, right, Fairhaven 2 and Fairhaven 3, there is a significant amount of space still left over in between those two fields where we can draw up demand for other sports. Again, so this isn't just a football, this just isn't a baseball and softball idea. This would be for a multitude of different sports, and we have the space. It's not like we're identifying new space, we're leveraging existing space. And again, while we're doing that, we should be repairing the flooding on Fairhaven 4. We should be talking about drainage. We should be adding parking where we can, addressing some of the bathroom challenges, and to address some of the debris and the garbage that's often left behind. Apologies if you can hear my dog barking. One thought that I had is thinking about a way to really make sure that we're using the field and giving it long-term success by incorporating some sort of player-driven formal community pickup program where the participants themselves are responsible for picking up the garbage, right? And whether that's, sort of team bonding on the side or an actual formal program where the participants themselves have skin in the game to essentially keep the fields pristine and clean and well maintained for many years to come, so that the onus is not on the DPW and it's not on the coaches. It's really on all participants to make sure that we maintain this. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. I just want to make sure it's everyone's time. And so here, this is the kind of example of what we're talking about, right? So over to the left, we have basically a visual of what the current field that we're talking about. So the space in red, this field over here is Fairhaven 4. The field over here is Fairhaven 3, which has essentially been abandoned right now because of excessive flooding. And then Fairhaven 3. These two fields are currently baseball. The thought would be for Fairhaven 4, this field up here, we would keep that baseball. We would repair the drainage issues by installing some pipes and fixing any of the drainage that needs to be fixed, extending the fence out here so that we can make it a baseball field that could be used not only for 10U and under, but all the way up through all of travel baseball, and then potentially putting a parking lot in this empty space over here, so there's additional parking. Fairhaven 3, which is the space over here, currently abandoned, like we said, it's not being used at all right now, could in theory become a softball field, right? The only softball field we have right now is over at Sportsman. We add another softball field in, then we bring an opportunity not only for the school to participate, but also for rec and for the new travel program to utilize that field. And that leaves Fairhaven 2, which is currently baseball. We transition that to synthetic turf. That becomes a multi-sport field and still leaves room between 2 and 3 for additional space, for additional fields. So we're not talking about adding any new space. We're talking about using existing space and really making it more efficient and more technology efficient for years to come. This is just a sort of mock-up of what a multi-sport synthetic complex field could look like. It certainly wouldn't be our field, but you can see here they have a baseball field, they have, sorry, 2 baseball fields, a football field, a soccer field, and they just draw lines accordingly to make use for many different sports. Last slide here is really just a comparison and notes around all of the different neighboring towns within Monmouth County that have installed synthetic turf and details around their project. So a few of us had an opportunity to speak to RFH being the most recent. Homedale did this in 2020. Count Basie at RBC did back in 2010. Middletown Normandy Park just did this last year with a smaller space for more youth focused activities. But as you can see, that the costs essentially range and the funding and the ways they went about it vary by town, right? So there's an opportunity to think about this in many different ways. We recognize that there's a significant amount of cost and investment upfront, but the long-term usage and opportunity for more participants, for less maintenance, for better use of all of our time in terms of like actual installation and maintenance costs, goes up significantly as we think about this. And so you'll see we listed out as much information we had, and I can get more on sort of the size of the fields that we're talking about, the various costs, any other considerations that went into this, how they went about funding for it, the timing it took to install it, and then the longevity. So it's a really, depending upon the type of turf, and there's many different turfs, but depending on the type of the turf that you're looking at, it has anywhere from like a 15 to 20 year average. After that point, and I don't know how I became a turf expert, but I have in the last 48 hours. After the initial sort of turf wears off, after the 15 to 20 years, and you essentially peel that part off, the underlying concept and ground remains the same. You peel off the top, you install new turf. So it's not as if you have to redo the entire $1 to $2 million. You're talking about literally a new piece of turf. Homedale pointed out something really interesting, that their cost included a machine for all maintenance, where once a week they have the DPW go out, they spread the turf, they pick up the leaves, they pick up the debris. That's it. That's all of their maintenance. They're not raking, they're not lining, they're not picking up anything. They're not fixing floods, they're not addressing drainage issues. They're simply bringing a machine out that came with the cost of the project to do all of the maintenance once a week. And so, this is just, again, I have other people on the line that are here to support us as well. And DJ, if we have time, I'd welcome others to chime in and certainly ask questions if we can. But really, this is what we're talking about. We have an opportunity here for the future generation. My kids are 10. By the time, if this gets done and when it gets done, my kids probably won't even benefit from it. But I do see a huge benefit to the community. I see a huge benefit, for the talent, the amount of enthusiasm that we have around sports, and the fact that the entire community gets together at Fairhaven Fields, and that to me, this is a huge play on the town, which would obviously increase revenue, not only for the real estate market, but also for all of our neighboring businesses, right? If we're drawing more folks into the community, more people are staying, having lunch, having dinner, hanging out, can only certainly help the bottom line of our town.
All right, Kristen, thank you. I mean, fantastic. Fantastic information. I would definitely love for you, if you hadn't already, make sure that you share this with us, maybe get it to DJ, he can get it out to us. There is clearly a whole lot to look at here, and this is certainly, well beyond any of the sort of the projects and the things that we have done or tend to do with the rec committee. This is something clearly has got to be worked in conjunction, with the town overall, with the council, because as you mentioned, it's certainly a big outlay as far as cost, but I do see the benefits as far as what it can save us in the long run, and what it can do as far as enhancing the town and making it a draw for other families and such. And there's a lot of stuff in there because again, I don't know all the details, but DJ may be able to, kind of talk with the rest of the group about
Mhm.
this at another time.
Mhm.
But I don't know how it all works in with the fact that that's Green Acres area and how it works in terms of, my understanding is the turf, when you do the turf, you've got lines that are set, and we have a lot of
Mhm.
flexibility now as far as being able to rearrange things and change
Mhm.
things around. And I don't know if
Mhm.
that limits that in any way, but there's
Mhm.
definitely a
Mhm.
lot of information, but a lot of things also, I'm sure, questions that we would have that we'd need to sort of sit down and sort of parse through.
Mhm. That's helpful. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'll look into both questions, but that's helpful feedback. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sure, and Councilwoman Koch and I know Councilwoman Kristen Keefe are on here as well. Any feedback as far as your thoughts or what you think the governing body's thoughts might be on something like this in terms of potential implementation or getting these thoughts in front of council for them to think about? What are your thoughts?
Well, I have a couple of questions. And I really need some time to think about this. Are there any costs? Do you have any estimates as to how much this will cost? You're talking about, it seems like you're talking about repairing one field, the drainage problem, but turfing another field. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's exactly right, Councilwoman. So it would be repairing Fairhaven Field 4, which is the
Right.
upper area.
The upper
Yeah,
one.
let me just go back really quick. And then turfing this space over here, which is essentially the equivalent of probably a little bit smaller than this space RFH did. We'd obviously have to get formal estimates and we'd have to scope it out. But we're talking about this space right here between 2 and 3.
So right now you don't have an estimate.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. One problem with parking, I just want to point out,
Yeah.
there was a parking area back there, but we closed it because of the amount of traffic that was generated on McCarter. So the
Okay.
residents had come to us previously and asked us to close that parking lot because it was a dangerous situation on their road. So
Okay.
I don't think we could open up any parking there right now.
Okay, that's helpful. That's fine.
Okay, any other thoughts from committee members?
Presentation is really impressive. Where did you get a lot of the, I mean, it really is. Where did you get a lot of the information? Was it just through, like, did you Oprah it or?
Yeah, I did some online research, but I also talked to the RFH athletic department. I talked to the Homedale athletic department. I talked to the RBC athletic department. I talked to several coaches in town. I talked to other coaches in other towns. Yeah, so I've tried to become as much of a turf installation expert as I possibly can by utilizing the community around us.
Yeah, bravo. It's really impressive.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo the sentiments, Kristen, just really, really impressive stuff. And like you said, you're a volunteer. Fairhaven doesn't exist. It isn't what it is without volunteers like you and some other parents throughout town. So definitely want to thank you for, caring enough to even put something like this together. And I think, as Mark said, it's definitely a large scale project that the governing body, I think, would need to weigh in on for sure. And I'm not really sure next potential steps as far as thumbs up, thumbs down, not sure, because we've never really considered anything this big.
Yeah, DJ, I'm thinking, I mean, if, as far as potential steps go, clearly we'd have to get a better handle on, what can be done within that space and what the cost would be. And I imagine that alone, is probably a pretty decent chunk of change as well. So we almost kind of have to get an idea of what would it cost to even investigate further, and then what numbers does that lead us to for the overall cost of a project like this.
Yeah, and I have the names of the all of the different contractors that each organization went out to, so I can definitely do a little bit of research to get between the engineers and the contractors that were awarded each one of the bids. I have plenty of contacts, so I'm happy to look into that.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, that'd be great information to have along with this whole presentation.
And Councilwoman Koch,
Sorry.
What is this something that you think Kristen should investigate further? Do you think that the borough governing body has these sorts of funds available? What are your thoughts? Obviously, there's some passion behind this, but
Right.
you also don't want
Well,
people to spin
I-
their wheels if you don't think it's a possibility.
I do have some numbers, and I mean, you could be talking about something between, $275,000 and $450,000. So I, we don't have that money right now to invest in a project like this.
Mhm.
We have a lot of other, we've just approved a bond that does allow some money, for capital spending by Parks and Recreation, but it doesn't come close to the project that you're suggesting.
Mhm.
But I mean, you're always welcome to come and present it before the borough itself. You could either ask to be on the agenda, or
Mhm.
you could, during For the Good of the Borough, you could
Mhm.
present your information. But this is a project of a really big magnitude, a huge magnitude,
Mhm.
that right now I don't see Parks and Recreation being able to give a go-ahead for.
Mhm. Understood. That's fair. Yeah, if you allow me the opportunity, I'm happy to, investigate some of the outlying questions and come back to the town council with a more
Okay.
formal presentation, and then we can talk about funding. We have some facts and figures. I didn't want to go down that road if this is something that Parks and Rec wouldn't even remotely consider, but if you would even be willing to entertain the idea, that I'm happy to investigate
Right.
and put something together for the next meeting, and then we can talk about what funds are available, and I would be more than willing to take on responsibility of fundraising, however, privately fundraising if we needed to get this done, because that's how passionate I feel about it, and I know others do as well.
Right.
Yeah, I suspect you're right, Kristen, as far as, funding this, it would definitely, as we saw just from your presentation there, that, these things tend to involve a lot of different groups raising money and possibly, bonding, through the town. So there's
Mhm.
definitely a lot of funds that would need to be raised to make this happen.
Understood.
Very, very
As
expensive.
far as cost, Kristen, I know you have, a lot of research there and a lot of numbers. Do you have an idea of what something like this would cost for me, just knowing, having conversations with different towns over the years?
Mhm.
And when I had spoken to you last week or the
Mhm.
week before, I just did a little
Yeah.
looking around. I would think something like this would probably be around the $1 million mark once you talk about Fairhaven 4, the Fairhaven 2, that whole turf field area down there. Is that kind of the range you're looking at?
It seems like if we compare it to RFH, because RFH is the most recent, comparison, it's got to be somewhere between 1 to 2. RFH did a little bit more. They went a little bit above and beyond with their fencing and their sidewalks and their formal dugouts. We might not need to do that. So I think I think you're right, DJ. It's probably somewhere between 1 to 1.5.
I think,
That,
Lauren,
that is a lot of money. And
Mhm.
right now, we're in the process of setting up the bonding for the DPW, the police department, and for our recent capital needs review.
Mhm.
I mean, I hate to throw water on you. I hate to be the
Mhm.
one to say this is a wish list, but that's a lot of money.
Mhm.
A lot of money. And I
Mhm.
think it's a huge burden on fundraising. That's a lot of money to raise.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, we wouldn't get it done overnight, right? It might take 5
Oh,
years.
absolutely. But you know what? It's not my decision.
Mhm.
If you want to pull some numbers together and bring it before the council,
Mhm.
then the council would actually be the ones that would have to approve it at the
Okay.
end. So
Okay.
that might be where you want to start.
Happy to. Happy to.
Thank
just
So
want
it sounds like
to
the
get
Hey,
back to
guys.
Lauren,
I'm
because-
sorry. Oh, sorry. It's Meg. Can I just
Oh.
jump in? I have one quick question.
What's up?
Hi. DJ, you might know the answer to this question. Does the fact that it's designated as open space impact our ability to put down turf?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh,
I know-
okay. So that
yeah, I
that would
know
certainly
that
be
with-
something.
Yeah, I know
I'm
that
afraid
with-
it might.
With turf being more acceptable than it was, 20, 15, 10 years ago. I don't know how those rules might have evolved or changed. So that's something that we could check with the county with as far as Green Acres goes.
Would I
Okay.
talk to TJ, or how would we find that out?
What was that?
How would we find that out? I'm happy to look into it, or if that's
So Green
something.
Acres would be able to to give us info on that, I can get you a contact there.
Okay, awesome.
You just
And
send me a
Teresa,
reminder now.
Teresa may know as well. We could also filter it through Teresa if she has any idea.
Okay.
I'll agree with Councilwoman Koch's sentiments that this is a sizable project, not only in scope, but in cost. And I suspect that, you know, we would really want to vet it fully in terms of cost, maintenance.
Mhm.
You know, is it the right decision for the borough? All of
Mhm.
those factors. And from a maintenance perspective, it might even reduce some of the maintenance costs, or, you know, that we are facing with our DPW and maintaining the fields. But it might impact us with maintenance costs in other respects. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that more information would be great. I think
Mhm.
this is a wonderful presentation, and I appreciate it. Thanks for volunteering and coaching.
No, of course. Thank you. Thanks for the
How can
opportunity to
Kristen get
speak.
on the
Thank
next
you.
agenda?
Let's get, Lauren's patiently had her hand raised. What's up?
Oh, sorry, Lauren, I keep passing over you.
No, it's okay. I think we actually covered, I only had, which would be adding to it, but I noticed the one big number on the chart that you had lighting, and I wasn't sure because I had
Oh,
a
yeah.
work appointment prior to this.
Yeah.
You don't have any plan in this,
No,
there's no
no,
plans for lighting,
no.
correct? Okay, just,
No.
So
I'm,
we're in
I'm,
that
I'm keenly
lower-
aware. I'm keenly aware of everybody on Grange, and
Yeah.
I'm not Grange. Yeah, no. What street is it over here that does not want lights? I get it.
oh
Heard.
no,
Heard loud and clear.
I don't live anywhere near there, but you know.
I get it.
I was
get
also thinking of the expense of the lighting, that we're not looking at that.
it. Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. I mean, listen, would it be great to have lights? Yeah, of course it would. But you know, I know that that's just not feasible at this point.
Would be nice to have lights somewhere in town. For some sort of sport, but
All right.
Councilwoman
All
Koch
right.
or Councilman
Thank
Christian
you.
Keith, best next steps for Kristen to be added to an upcoming council meeting would be to send an email to the borough clerk. Is that correct?
Yes,
And I can
Okay.
advise her on those steps.
yes. Or, you know, you could make it a little simpler and just do it for the good of the borough.
Okay, so she doesn't have to be on the official agenda as long as she's there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Our at council meetings are
Twice a month, right?
to share screen like this or no?
Okay.
Just a recommendation too, maybe, you know.
Well, you know, I don't know because now we're doing to that hybrid owl. I'm not quite sure how all that works, but you can check with Allison
Okay.
and see if you can share through that format. I don't know how that works.
That's a good
Okay.
point. Since it's in person, in theory, Kristen could come with printouts and have those for
Yes.
council members to
Yes.
review.
And we do
Okay.
meet in person, so that
Right.
opportunity exists.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So I will put Kristen back to, let's see.
Night
Imagine.
signage.
Night signage. Yep. Let me just do some rearranging here on the Zoom side. Stop sharing. All right. Okay. So we'll hop down, or I guess hop back up. We're kind of scattered a little bit, but we'll go to the night signing. So a representative from the Booster Club contacted me a couple weeks ago to see if the NOAA Knights teams could have a sign placed at Fairhaven Fields. And the reason was essentially that NOAA uses the tennis courts and some fields in Fairhaven Fields for their home fields for various sports. And it'd be nice for them to just be able to kind of identify that space, and it might be nice for the students to be able to share some of that pride in calling that their home field, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. We don't really have any signage out there that marks that as a spot for their home fields. It will help the away teams too. I've been out there at times where the soccer team is supposed to play on the lower field and they're hanging out at the top field. So I think some identification signage would help. They actually already have 2 signs made up that are going to be at Sportsman's and Norwood Backfield, which that's Board of Ed property. So they're not asking for our input on that. But what they are asking for is if we can give them the approval to place the signs at Fairhaven Fields, they would be on the fence at the tennis court and the fence at the big baseball field where Norwood plays. They would take them down and put them up during the season. So it's no burden on our DPW, and they would store them as well. So there's no storage consideration that the borough would have to worry about. So I'm gonna share my screen here and be able to look at what it looks like.
DJ, have they done this before? I thought they put up signs before.
Not to my knowledge, not since I've been here. They could have before in the past. Can you all see this sign?
Yep. And they would just take it down at the end of the season?
Yeah, that's the ask. And in my discussion with the borough administrator, we thought that would make the most sense. We're actually starting to see a decent amount of vandalism at the parks and things like that. Wouldn't want to see it ruined. I think it'd be nice for them to be able to keep it in good condition if they were to take it down in the off season. If the committee doesn't think that's necessary, that's fine. But that was the general thought process. Is you can see the grommets are up here. They would simply attach it to the fence and then take it down after the season.
Well, I think if they keep the signing in good repair and they only keep it up for the season, I think it should be fine.
Yeah, I think it's nice.
I agree.
Agree.
All right.
Tina, any thoughts over there? I think you might be at back to school night, but I saw you log in.
Have not gotten back. I found out that back to school night's pre-recorded, so I can stay for the entirety of the meeting. But no, I think it looks great, and I agree with what everyone was just saying in regards to keeping it up. And if they keep it in good condition, then I see no problem with it being up.
I think we're in agreement. Anybody have any concerns?
Nope.
No, I'm actually just happy. I thought I had to get on a Zoom at 7 o'clock for back to school night too. And then found out it was a video, so.
All right, so I think we're in agreement there, DJ. We can let them know that that's a go.
Okay, sounds good. I think the kids will be thrilled. I think it'll be really cool for them to see it. I think it'll make their home games feel a little bit more homey. So I'm really excited for this. And like I said, they came up with the plans and all that. So good job on them. I'll get back to them and let them know that that's a go.
Okay.
All right, what's up? Litter, maintenance?
Yeah, so we'll hop down to community center. Community center field litter maintenance update. So we spent a good amount of time last week or last month discussing some things that can be done to pretty up the community center, some of the trash issues that are ongoing, some of the litter issues. So just wanted to update, and then feel free to hop in with questions and comments. I have a few things. So one, wood chips were added to all the playgrounds last week. We typically see a lot of erosion in the winter months. So you don't want to go too crazy with it now and then have to replace all that stuff in the spring, but we wanted to put an adequate, safe amount out for this time. And then we'll be reevaluating it in the spring. But so DPW did spread those at all the different playgrounds. The town has put out a lot of information to residents regarding the litter issues. Constant Contact is on Facebook, on the mayor or the council president's letter. Emails are sent to all the different sports leagues. And the green team has been really good in coming up with some potential ways that the sports leagues could help out. So they're going to send a letter to all the different sports leagues asking to come up with this initiative where they essentially give garbage bags to all the leagues and coaches, or the coaches go around and they'll have garbage bags to help clean up after their games and things like that. So I'm just trying to, some different things that will help mitigate some of that excess litter that we're seeing in the parks. DPW is going to allocate some manpower to go around the parks, particularly earlier in the week after the weekends, find litter, pick it up, things like that. They've been pretty short on manpower. I spoke to them about a couple of things, and one thing that they noted was they didn't get the summer help that they typically do. And I don't know if that has to do with, other issues with, just being tougher to find employees this past summer in a bunch of different industries, but they typically have 2 to 3 summer part-time employees. This year they had 0. So that, I think, in discussions that we're finding that maybe that's why some of the weed issues appeared this summer more than in the past. Some of these items that typically we can allocate some relatively simple manpower to, and that just wasn't the case this summer, this fall. But they're going to they're gonna definitely take a look at that the next month or so as the fall sports continue to take place all over the fields. And long-term wise, the borough administrator and governing body are going to consider some things that can be done, not just at community center, but at all the parks in terms of how often the trash and recycling is picked up, when it goes from 1 time a week to 2 times a week, number of stations and locations, and all those things will be evaluated at the next contract discussion. But as it always is, it's an ongoing discussion, and I think we're happy to have input from the residents that we had last week, discussion with DPW supervisor, borough administrator, council liaisons. There's a lot of discussion, and I think there's some good ideas that are out there. So, Mark, I don't know, did that answer all the items that we had discussed?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we had on there. And I think it's interesting, some of the things we're mentioning that we'll possibly do, like the distributing of the trash bags, and the fact that we recognize it's a problem and it's something we've been trying to address. It was interesting how that kind of ties back to some of the things that Kristen was saying about, maybe with some of the changes that can be made, it'll help address those issues. But we'll start with this.
Sounds good. Hey, Kristen, I'm going to try to move you back to an attendee unless you want to hang here. But if it removes you, just enter back into the.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you. I'm happy to listen. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again. All right, so we'll move down. That didn't work. Sorry, Kristen.
I'll
Kristen,
just
you
log off. I'll log off and then log back on. All good.
Okay.
No worries. Thank you.
So we'll move on down.
So what, multi-purpose?
All right, so Councilwoman Kristen Keefe, any update on the multi-purpose wall, Fairview Fields? I know the concrete was a discussion that we're looking forward to getting some kind of answer to. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I give you an update. So the update is this. I guess after the last meeting, there were two thoughts that we needed questions answered. Sorry. The one was whether or not we feel realistically could, as a legal matter and just like practically, get the concrete donated. And the answer was yes, we could.